Hi there, this is Jacqueline with Nickel and Dime Decor, and we're going to finish up our lap quilt that I made for my husband. I want to show you how I did that. Little old simple thing. I just went around each and every block, and I did each individual, and I did 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch from the seams, 1/4 inch, 1/4, and so forth. Now, started out marking, with my erasable pen, so that I knew I was getting a good, straight line. Well, that took way too much time. So I eventually trusted my good judgment, put my foot right up against that seam, and that gave me 1/4 inch. And I did that on each and every one. Now on the edges, I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but I chose to be 3/4 of an inch away from the edge. And my thinking was, if I'm going to sew a 1/2 inch seam to sew this together, or whether I use a 1/4 inch seam, and then use a outlining stitch. See, what I'm going to do is put this and put my backing right sides together. I'm just going to sew all the way around, leaving about that much to turn, and then do a top stitch all the way around. A lap quilt that's for senior citizens or someone that's homebound or someone in a nursing home does not need a binding. That's just not necessary. It's something that they might twiddle with and eventually make it come loose. So I'm just going to sew it together, turn, and do the top stitch. And that's it. It will be done. This is how it turns out on the back. Looks kind of nice, doesn't it? Nobody's going to see that ever. And don't worry about the threads. I started cutting them all off. Nobody's going to see that either. So this is a project that any beginner sewer can do. It's so simple. And, stitching in the ditch takes a lot of concentration. It doesn't look all that neat sometimes when you don't cover it up good, It takes a little bit of practice to stitch in the ditch, so why do it? Just make your stitches like I did. Just sew 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Except on the sides, I went 3/4. And we'll see how that turns out. I think it'll be fine. And the reason 3/4 is I don't want, if I had sewn 1/4 inch, I would have covered up that stitching. So I did the 3/4 thinking that a 1/2 inch seam would be more, it would leave 1/4 inch. I think that was pretty good thinking, but we'll see how it turns out. So I would show you how to do this. I have one more little patch to do, but I know that's simple instructions and you can do it. You don't need to watch me do it. So I'm going to finish that last one that I need to do, and then I'm going to lay it out and measure top, middle, and bottom. After you've quilted, it might not be perfectly even, and we want to get it evened up as good as possible. So I'm going to measure three or four measurements. And then, well, first of all, of course, we have to cut the batting off. You know that. But for beginners, you might not know that. We're going to trim this off right even with where it is, and then we'll measure, and we'll see how we are. Now, if you're within 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch would be wonderful. All the way down, don't worry about it. Nobody's going, after it's done, nobody is going to come and say, hey, wait a minute, I don't think this thing is squared up. Who cares? And if they do, you tell them to mind their own business. So, when you get the batting cut off and you measure, if it's way, way off, then try to even it up. And that means across and lengthwise. And then, that's it. About the easiest little quilt you could ever make. And you know, this was for my husband. It's perfect for a man. Any check or plaid is perfect for a man, I think. But you know, this could be adapted to a baby quilt. So easy. Can't you just see it in real pretty pastels or even your primary colors? That'd be the cutest baby quilt. This was 33 by 44. Perfect for a baby quilt. So adapt it and do it. Okay, that's it for right now. When I come back, I'll have the batting trimmed, and I will show you how we're going to sew it together. Okay, guys, here it is. All sewn. Now, I ended up, before I sewed it together, 33 3/4 and 43 1/2 to be technical. And I just kind of evened it. Then when I sewed it together, some of my seams were wider than, they were all 1/4 inch seams, but I had a little bit more backing. I was going to trim it, and then I thought, well, why? It doesn't really matter. So I want to show you what I found for the back. I'm so excited. I used this with my very first great-grandson's baby quilt. And it was exactly, I don't think I trimmed off an inch. And you know, to me, that's how the good Lord blesses me and blesses you, I'm sure. He always provides. This is flannel and so soft. It's perfect, and I'm so happy. Now, after you've sewn it and turned it, I want to show you a real neat way to get these seams just right. Just pull your top, pull it down like this, and then just finger press, finger press, finger press. Just like that. Really work it over. And then scrunch it up. And there you have it. I don't know where to get it. That's how you get, and then you can press it if you like, which I would. And then see, when I said I did my 3/4 of an inch, look. I'm so glad I did, because it worked out perfect. It worked out. So that's how you get it lined up, and you need to go the whole thing doing that, finger pressing, and then roll it up, and just roll it up. And if you need to, pin it. And just keep working at it till you get your seams just perfectly matched together. And then I'm going to do my top stitch, and I'm going to do it right on, see where my 3/4 where I did it. I'm going to do it a 1/4 or 3/8 over. Try to do it on that same print right there, right stitching, so I don't have to make new stitching. But it's gonna take you a while now to get all of this lined out, because it's important, because it won't look quite right if you don't. See there? So that's a little trick. Now, we're just going to sew this top, fold it over, press it, fold this side over, and it will be caught in our 1/4 inch stitching, okay? Be sure and poke out your corners and get all of this hem perfectly lined up before you sew this top, okay? Then after you've got it sewed, I don't like the fact, when you make something like this, I don't like that the backing is not attached. So what we'll do, and it doesn't matter what you pick, but what I'm going to do is maybe in each corner and one in the middle, I'm going to stitch in the ditch one of my blocks. I'm not going to do this middle one. I'm just going to stitch right here and randomly maybe stitch right here, and I'm just going to pick out enough to cover the whole lap quilt, because I want it to be sewn together. But like I say, you don't have to do too many, just maybe 5, and maybe 2 here. I wouldn't do the corners after I said that. I think I would do right here and right here, just maybe random, whatever you want to do. But it'll look fine if you do one in the middle and one about right there and one about right there. That's what I would do. And then you'd have 5 all together, and everything will be perfectly quilted together. Because when you wash it, you want it to be quilted together. So there it is, our beautiful, beautiful lap quilt. And I'm proud, and I know my husband will be proud. He's one of my biggest fans, and he appreciates all my hard work. And I so thank you for watching this tutorial, and have a wonderful day, and God bless. Well, one last look with it all finished, and I only did 3 diagonal squares in the middle, just cross, diagonal, and that was enough. That was enough to keep the backing. If I flipped it over, I don't think you can even tell. There's one box, and there's another box. So anyway, there's 3 of them, and that's just a good way to keep your backing and batting and everything together. So neat project, neat the way it finished. I ended up doing 1/4 inch around the edge, top stitch, just 1/4 inch. Please give it a go. And if you like this, please subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it so much. God bless.